All right. Welcome to episode 7 of the For My Dawgs podcast. This is a podcast that exists to talk about what it's like to be a man in today's world and to highlight that we can't do it alone and that we need each other. You need dogs in your life. So speaking of, I got my dog Johnny here with me today.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have a special guest, our first ever guest on the podcast, Taylor Michel. Glad to have you,
guys.
man.
Yes, sir.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, did you guys get to watch any football yesterday?
Yeah. Well, when Georgia had a bye week, so it was a win for us. Didn't have to get stressed out about it.
Yeah.
But man, I enjoyed watching other teams and not having to have any kind of like dog in the fight. Bye weeks are a great week for me.
But it also gives you plenty of time to get nervous for your game next week.
Yeah, because we're playing Bama, and I didn't realize that Bama also had a bye week too. So, it's two teams having a bye week going into it, and I was like, I thought we had the leg up on them, but they're just as equally prepared now, which is awful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also wonder, you guys, just put it bluntly, struggled against Kentucky.
Our defense did not allow touchdowns. So our defense is still a good defense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but what I was going to say is, does a bye week help you after a week like that, or do you think it hurts you?
Two things. One, from the earlier podcast, I was bragging about Kentucky before we even played Georgia because it was our second string. He went there, so I was right.
I don't know about that. Hold on. Hold on.
The thing is, I called them being tough. I called them being tough before we played them.
Were they tough against South Carolina?
Okay, hang on, easy now. Because I even texted this to you. The year Georgia won national championship, we barely beat Kentucky, and we barely beat Missouri. And those teams Missouri wasn't even a good team that year. So
I texted you immediately after the game. I said, you guys always have a close nail biter game, and then you figure it out and you move on.
Oh,
I'm just trying to argue that Kentucky is not tough.
But Kentucky's always a sleeper, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are they?
They
actually
are.
You barely beat them last year. Tennessee barely beat them last year.
A win is a
So why can't I say a win's a win? Why is it bad when I say that? It's the exact same argument.
I'm not taking away from your win.
You.
You're trying to say that Kentucky's a good team.
They aren't.
Okay. Let me go back to your question.
I think it's too early.
On the bye week, coaching right now, we have a bye week as well. It's good because you get extra time, but the guys kind of get a little lazy because they're like, we don't have a game, so we're not going to work as hard this week. So if the coaches can keep the endurance going of, hey, we need to make up for what we did, then yes. But if the players get lazy, and no offense to my team, like they kind of got this past week, then it might not be good.
Well, and I did see a video of Kirby. He was getting after him in practice.
My shirt right now.
Yeah.
I run on Kirby Smart pep talks. He has the best pep talks ever.
Also, I would just like to point out how good of a friend I am to you. Hat you're wearing, I actually made for you.
I know.
I got the patch and the hat separate, put them together.
Yeah, you bought it for yourself.
It was your birthday?
It was my birthday, but then it came like a couple months later, I think. But yes.
How hard was that for you to actually put that together? Like, I know your hands were probably like burning.
Oh yeah.
The sense of putting that hat together.
It hurt.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't that was the last thing. I would have expected a Tennessee hat that he would have given me, not a Georgia hat. So it was good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that for you. So it might be a one-sided friendship.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you literally were saying you're gonna wear Georgia stuff when we go to if we go to the Tennessee game later this year.
I mean, I don't own Tennessee gear, so I wasn't gonna wear a Tennessee. But yeah.
Well, I was like, at least don't wear Georgia stuff. Just wear neutral colors.
Fair.
Wear like black or white.
Fair. Yeah, I will respect that.
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk about Tennessee. Had a pretty big win last night against Oklahoma. So I was encouraged to see that because I was a little nervous heading into the game. I just don't feel like the competition we've played so far has been it's hard to tell how we were just based on who we played.
And I wasn't jumping on y'all's yet because I was like, y'all haven't played anybody really, and so I even told you I was like, I think this game will determine if y'all's team is good or not, and Oklahoma's team too. But
yeah, in Oklahoma, I mean, their defense is legit. Like,
Mhm.
they got some dudes on the defensive line. But I mean, their offense barely could complete a pass downfield. And our defensive line just absolutely dominated that game.
Yeah, it was nice.
So, like,
it was a nice SEC game.
this was the first, we definitely welcomed Oklahoma to the SEC. But this was the first time in a long time I can remember Tennessee having their defense win them a football game.
Right.
It's like the offense played good, but we also like dialed it back a lot in the second half. And I was telling Haley, I was like, that game just felt weird to me. Like, it felt like we dominated, but the score didn't reflect it, and like our offense didn't play out of their mind. It was just kind of a.
It was
I don't
Nico,
know.
not the Polynesian Pistol.
Oh, he is.
Oh,
He
okay.
is. But I think Heupel's trying to not ruin him as a quarterback like the Panthers have done with Bryce Young, and
Yeah.
he's being patient with Nico and letting him kind of grow into the offense as we go.
Yeah.
Which I think is why the play calling, they just didn't open up the playbook in the second half, and they didn't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, they just leaned on the defense, and
Well, that's his old school, so he's not. He had the right to destroy them, but he also had the right to be gracious, I guess.
yeah, they did give him a cool moment for the game.
Yeah.
And I saw his post-game speech in the locker room was pretty cool because he was like, this game was never about me. Like, it wasn't about me. But I appreciate the little extra you guys gave it for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. And then they all started hyping him up, and he started dancing and stuff. It was pretty funny.
We'll see. Come November, we'll see when Georgia plays.
Yeah,
y'all.
November 16th. I know.
So you said that you're more of a baseball guy. For like NFL, are you a Panthers fan?
See, I
it's
actually
hard to
had this
be.
conversation. Listen, I went to the game last week with some of our family
Miserable.
friends, and halfway through the game, I looked at one of them and I said, "Give me a number 1 through 32." And they picked a number, and it picked the Minnesota Vikings. So I've happily decided that I'm now a Minnesota Vikings fan because I cannot keep watching David Tepper and these Carolina Panthers do. I mean, could have changed today with them sitting Bryce. I said they should have sat Bryce way early on.
Yeah.
He's not ready. He's not.
Yeah.
And you need a good offensive line. You need actual people who are going to catch footballs and make plays in order to win football games. And if you can't have those players, you're not going to, no matter who you are, but especially an unexperienced 2-year in quarterback, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I was messing around being like, well, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan at this point because I can't sit here and watch us I feel like the Chargers had more touchdowns than we did first downs that game, and it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was rough. Yeah.
So
It was rough.
It was rough to watch. It was
yeah.
definitely rough to watch.
Yeah.
I was also at that game, and I don't think I cheered one time or like clapped my hands.
Just sat there.
The only thing I clapped for was the interception that we had, and we were in the red zone at that point, and we still didn't score.
Yeah.
All the hype. I mean, how's it first round pick and now you're getting benched? Like, that's rough.
That's tough.
Oh. It's tough, and especially like after the years we had prior, like and people may disagree with me on this. I can't stand Cam Newton. Never have. But he did it. He was a fantastic quarter. It is a very hot take. I get yelled at a lot for this one. But I will agree that he was one of the, if not the best quarterback that besides Jake Delhomme. Like I said, he made an appearance in that game, which was super cool to see.
Yeah.
Like you said, he made Carolina's football into something more. But yeah, it's going to take a lot of work, and the Tepper needs to go. I feel like you get him out, this whole organization is going to turn around.
Yeah, I agree. But it's almost like they kicked Dan Snyder out because of how terrible of an owner he was at Washington. Yep. And then Tepper just took that spot. It was like,
that is going to be, I think, this is buyout, though. Like, it won't be cheap for them to do that.
No. Yeah. Whoever buys it from him is going to be paying a pretty penny. But I don't think that'll happen. I don't think they'll force him out. And that's what stinks about an owner is they don't get fired like a GM or a coach. But yeah, it's depressing to be a Panthers fan. But cool fact about you, Taylor, your brother plays baseball at Virginia Tech, so you also pull for the Hokies, which they had a tough loss.
again, it's just like being a Panthers fan. Like I said, love Virginia Tech. The atmosphere there is unreal.
Yeah.
Enter Sandman is one of the best entrances in college football, and I will stand on that till the day I die.
I agree.
And
It's
It's no Rocky Top and running through the tee.
No,
but it is good.
It is the. I mean, I haven't been to Neyland, but it is the best entrance in college football.
Hands down.
Yes.
Kirk Herbstreit disagrees with you.
He
has a lot of hot takes.
But I will say, like I said, that I will, regardless of what happens. I mean, even you look at the season opener at Vandy, like the whole away side was orange and maroon. Like, regardless of whatever happens, I will always say that the Hokie fans stand behind them. And through thick and thin, I know sometimes like you get some people are like that will go down on them, and trust me, I've said my things or two. I have a dog in the fight, literally. My brother.
Yeah.
When it comes to the baseball side of things, but like I said, Blacksburg's a special place.
It is cool. Blacksburg's cool. Well,
it is.
I will say that.
It's a special place, and going to see him and hang out with him, but also like just the college town itself. I mean, I kind of give it like, and it hurts me to say this name, but it kind of feels like a Clemson vibe because of the fact of it being such a small town. But having that school has such an impact, and that school has made Blacksburg into something that's incredible that people want to go to. And like I said, with my brother playing baseball, like people wanting to go play baseball for them. Like I said, I have brief knowledge on football. I'll sit there and watch games all day. I'll come and support. I'm a baseball guy through and through. Always have been, always will be. But no, like I said, Blacksburg's special. And like I said, I went to Liberty. Liberty's football team's doing great.
Yep.
They like, especially last year, making it, playing Oregon. Like I said, it was cool to watch that. But when you especially got your best friend and your dog on the fight of Virginia Tech, you gotta be a Hokie through and through, and will always be. So
that's definitely true. And Liberty, shout out to Liberty. They had a late win last night against Johnny's now school.
Yeah,
ECU.
I'm going to ECU online, so I'm a Pirate, but I was pulling against.
And your wife.
Yeah,
your
and my
wife
wife went there. Yeah. I mean, and my wife
went there.
Yeah. They have an awful football team. They have a pretty good baseball team though. ECU does pretty.
Well,
they produce decent in baseball. I know you might not just like agree with that.
They don't play anybody, and I will sit on that sit on that one. And I get yelled at all the time for that one.
Yeah.
No,
they were up 17-0 last night and got outscored 35-7 out after that.
I turned the game off because I thought it was over. Yeah. And then this morning, and I was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Oh, ECU."
Which I got to shout out. There's a group from our church that went to that game and stayed until the very end, so they didn't get back to their hotel, until 2:30 or something. Went to bed a little bit before 3. Woke up at 5:30. Drove here to be at church this morning.
Wow.
Because we had baptisms and service today, and they knew some of the kids getting baptized. So I was like, man, you guys are committed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It proves you can stay committed and still be a football fan. You can do both. You just got to sacrifice some sleep.
Yeah.
That's all.
And throwing a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Got to caffeinate heavily.
Yeah. Who needs sleep? We're fine.
Yeah. Well, if you're, one of our regular listeners, you may be wondering why Taylor's on the pod today. And, he gotten to introduce himself a little bit since we were talking about sports for a minute. But the reason we asked Taylor to come on, he reached out shortly after one of our first couple episodes. But he's a police officer, and he has a story to share about just how, being a police officer can impact your mental health. And he's got his own journey that started even before he became a police officer. And so we wanted to ask him to come on just so he could share it rather than us sharing it for him. So yeah, Taylor, can you tell us a little bit about your background and just, what kind of led you to become a police officer?
Yeah, man. So I'm actually, for the people who don't know me and other stuff like that, I'm actually grew up and went to church with both of your wives.
Yeah.
It was in youth group with them. We had a great friendship through high school and even still to this day. And like I said, came to know the Lord in 7th grade, did all the high school stuff, grew up playing baseball, got offered for a scholarship to Pfeiffer University, was there for 5 days. And then 5 days after those 5 days, I felt the Lord tell me I needed to be at Liberty. And so I stopped playing. I hung the cleats up and went to Liberty. I was there for a year and a half. To all the younger listeners, go to class, because apparently you have to go to class in order to stay in school.
Might help.
I learned that it does help. I learned that the hard way. Lord had a plan and everything. Went down to Cleveland, Georgia, and did a summer orchid camp down there. Woodlands camp was a counselor, did an internship down there. Picked up a camera throughout that time. I started doing photo, video, doing a lot of weddings and business stuff and sports. Like I said, my brother growing up playing travel ball and just going and be able to capture those moments for him. It was just something fun. It brought me back to the passion I had for baseball. Moved to Greenville, South Carolina, and was down there. Came back home because some stuff happened. It was the best thing for me. I worked with my dad for about 2.5 years and then just really didn't know where my life was going, but luckily my mom, who is my rock in the family, is a rock in the Michel family, brought home a business card and said, hey, I think you should do this. And the business card was a recruiter at CMPD. For those who don't know, Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. And I was like, you know what? Let's roll with it. Entered the academy, did that for 6 months, did my training, or I got sworn in, graduated the academy, one of the hardest things, because I'm not a student. So having to sit there in 6 months, passing 35 tests, doing scenarios, driving, shooting, all these different things was the hardest thing I've ever done, hands down. Past that, was blessed to be placed in the division in West Charlotte. Had some great training officers, one of them still being a super close friend, and congratulations to him, recently just got promoted to sergeant, and worked there for about a year and a half too. And then with everything going on, and what I'll talk more about here in a little bit, just felt that the Lord and a lot of other people when talking to felt that it was time for a switch. And so I recently, actually last Monday, started at the Concord Police Department here in North Carolina, just outside the city of Charlotte. So I'm really excited about that. Like I said, it's already been a great fit for the week I've been in there. And like I said, super excited to start actually working. So I'm doing all the fun paperwork and sitting in the office and all the orientation stuff right now. I'm ready to be back on the streets and getting to work.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, congrats on the move to a new department. Concord's right there where I grew up, so it's a good area, and it's
great.
Yeah, it's kind of blowing up. They're putting a lot there.
The amount of people that are coming in to the department as well as to the city is just, it's going to be it's already, but it's going to be more of a booming city here shortly. So
yeah.
Can I ask a real quick question? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Tucker.
Go for it.
Was this, as a kid, did you ever think that you were going to be a cop? No.
Ironically enough, I've had multiple people tell me, hey, you should be a police officer. Like, I'm a people person. It's good and bad way people pleaser. I want to make sure everyone else is fine before I even think about myself. It's always been that. And I had multiple people, oh, you should be a police officer. And I was like, there's not a chance in the world I will ever do this job.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I ran from it for years. And then, and like I said, that was definitely the Lord putting little sparks like, hey, this is where you're probably going to end up going.
Yeah.
And like I said, when my mom came out with that, sat down and talked to a lot of my mentors, prayed a lot about it, and just felt like it was the right fit. And I can't see myself doing anything else for the rest of my career. I absolutely love this job and love what I get to do.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, to kind of transition just to the mental health side of it for you, could you share like what point in your life you started to struggle with significant mental health issues? And just for the listeners, like we talked to Taylor before this, so I'm kind of asking the question already knowing some of this. But yeah, just kind of like, when did that start for you? And what were some of the warning signs you think that kind of clued you in to let you know that you were struggling?
Yeah. I grew up hiding a lot of my stuff. If you ask my parents, again, I'm a people pleaser. I want to make sure everyone else is okay. I don't think about myself. I'm making sure y'all are good. Like, just like y'all's podcast name, For My Dawgs. I'm looking out for my dogs rather than looking out for me, which is a huge sign in itself that you can't help others unless you're okay yourself. And when I would blow up, I'd always blow up. And unfortunately, with my family and all my family, and it took me a while to recognize that, but it really kind of probably started once I left Liberty. It wasn't I decided to stop going to school. It was hey, I'm not passing classes. I'm not going to class. I'm just going to hang out with people, and had a great time, made some great relationships still to this day that I go see and talk to all the time. But leaving that, especially after the the stuff, like I said, with Pfeiffer, like, hey, this was a hard move and a big move. We went from being on a scholarship to having to pay the majority of the school, and kind of felt like a fail to my parents in a sense when they did everything they could to put me in this position, and didn't show up. And like I said, went to camp and did that, stayed down there, didn't know what I wanted to do with school, and I did some community college classes, didn't really have interest or care in that. But then that move to Greenville was the year of 2020. So everyone knows that year, everyone knows COVID. You go down there, me and my buddy started doing weddings with photo and video and doing some business stuff, and it was booming. And then COVID hit, and then I was working a side job because of like it just we weren't having enough stuff yet because we just started. But it's hard to run a business. Like I said, he was blessed, and he's my buddy was killing it, and he had another job just because he actually finished college and had a degree, so it's a little bit easier for him. But so I was a lot of times staying home at the job I did have. I ended up like I was not making any money, and I was honestly losing money driving back and forth to it because I was a server, I was a bartender at a pizza restaurant down there, and I was making a few dollars a night from tips because no one was coming in, and they cut the staffing down, and so it took a lot of time to realize, like, man, like what's going to happen, what's going on, the uncertainty of, I mean, all that stuff going on. But it's hard living on your own and not having money. You go back to thinking that, we're back to, am I going to come home and tell my parents I failed again? Like, I love my family. The worst thing for me to hear is I'm disappointed. It hurts worse than anything else. And so I'm doing everything. I used to drive from Greenville, South Carolina to Charlotte 3 days a week to prep for what schools here in Charlotte to make somewhat ends meet. But yeah, man, so there were some times where I would just not have jobs, or I'd be sitting there all day by myself and my thoughts, and I'm a thinker and my mind races 24/7. Kind of everything during those times of me just sitting at the apartment and thinking, like, you look back on like all the success I had growing up, and then being here without a job and waiting for the next wedding, and I was in a little bit of debt and a little bit of everything, and it didn't really help out with a lot of things. Unfortunately, it got to a point where, like, I'm sitting there in my thoughts all day, and and as hard as it is, I mean, there was a time where I literally looked at myself in the mirror and practically almost attempted to take my life. I thought about suicide. I thought about it a lot. It was a few weeks of, well, should I do this? Should I not? Should I do this? Should I not? And looked at myself in the mirror one day and almost did it. And the lowest of the low, I had 87 cents in my bank account. I had rent in 5 days. I owed my buddy money because I was behind on rent, and like, don't have a job. Do I put gas in my tank to go to work, or do I go and eat food? Like, it was tough. And like I said, and I kind of hid that. It was a while before I even told anyone that was the thing. I don't remember the first time I told someone that I thought about it or almost did it. But yeah, that was the biggest telltale sign for me, was just like, I'm the kind of guy that, like I said, like, this podcast is huge because I grew up being an extroverted person. Now I've turned into, like, hey, I like my few people here and there, and I have my dogs around me, but like there's a select few that know. And like I said, I have one right now he actually is moving to Concord with me right now, so my mental health is great now. But back then I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want to be scared, like, well, he can't go to work because he's worried about me doing that. So ended up coming home after that. Mental health was not great when I was back home. Leaned into a lot of alcohol. I even smoked some weed a few times. I didn't enjoy that at all, but leaned on that, and it was just like depression hit after that, because it's just like, man, what am I going to do with my life? I don't see any movement going forward. I suck at school. I'm still living at home. I'm working a practical nowadays minimum wage job, and nothing was moving forward. So the depression really hit hard with that, and everybody outside of my life could tell it was. And if you couldn't, then you didn't know me well enough at that point to know. So.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, you said earlier you're an extrovert. Do you think people noticed? But you said that people did notice that you're going through that time.
by people, I really mean like my family,
Right.
because of the different, and the family, and then the people who were super close to me, just because of the fact that they could see the switch from the last, since I made the move to Greenville and then moved back home, and then they were able to tell, like, I wasn't doing as much. I would rather go and sit with some buddies on a boat and get absolutely drunk out of my mind and not have a thought in the world, and or be at the house and sleeping all day and not thinking of anything else. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, Taylor, I just want to say I appreciate so much your vulnerability and sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
On this podcast in such a public way. And also, and just, when you and I talked about this before the podcast, you were like, I don't know what stopped me in that moment. And then you were like, well, I know now, but in the moment I didn't. And you were like, that was the Lord that stopped me and preserved. And I just want to say, like, it's so cool to see that the Lord preserved your life in that moment, and then now has given you just this great purpose. And we're coming off an episode where we talked about discovering your purpose and how everybody has a race to run. And sometimes it takes a minute to figure out what race you're running or what you're running towards. But man, it's just so encouraging to hear how much of a valley you were in to now the Lord's placed your feet on the track and has you running with a finish line in sight, and like you have a purpose and you're working towards getting better and improving. And
absolutely.
So I just want to say I'm proud of you, man.
Yeah, very
I know
proud.
it's tough to talk about. It's tough to admit that you've gone through that, and just proud of how far you've come and where you're at now.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
it's a road, and it is a very bumpy road, let me tell you. And there's some potholes and valleys, but there's always, like I said, just in realizing that this is all temporary. And like I said, I have a relationship with Jesus, and I know where I'm going. I know where all that is. And like I said, like the mountaintop is I can't even picture it. But it's like I said, just knowing that and him putting everything in order to be, and I tell people all the time that the lowest of those lows have helped me make strides with people in my job today. And it's so ironic to see, and like being able to relate with someone on a call because of the things that I've done. And like at the time didn't see what is the reason for all this. And it's like 4 to 5 years later, I'm already seeing it come into fruition of, hey, like I struggle with these things. And I've already had conversations and gotten people help and been able to relate with people and build a rapport with people because of me going through these, and I can relate to them.
Yeah.
Anywhere on the street. So.
Yeah. And I think that's such a powerful message, because we're actually, believe it or not, we're in Suicide Awareness Month in September. But what you just said to anyone out there listening who's in a similar spot that Taylor described he was in, and you're having those thoughts, like, just to hear what you just said, of you're on the other side, seeing how you going through that is actually helping other people. And you're here for a reason, because those people need to hear what you have to say from the experience you went through. And that's
absolutely,
we've talked about that on the podcast, right? Like, all the difficult, challenging things we go through in life actually serve to make us better people. And they put us in a position to help others, which I think is huge to point out and recognize.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what it's like to be a cop on a day to day. I appreciate you saying the whole paperwork getting. It's not always out in the field, but there's paperwork, and it reminds me of The Other Guys movie, which is like my only reference to being a cop. So I'm just not the best one.
I tell people all the time is like, you can go on YouTube or TV and see cops and see all the stuff, and you see the 5 minutes of fun they have. And like I said, I have fun all the time. Like I said, like I played cops and robbers as a kid, and I get to live that out every single day in my job.
Right.
I get to go and help people, and I get to put bad people away. But it's a 5 minutes of fun for 5 hours of paperwork, kind of job. And I remember, like I said, growing up, gosh, I can't stand the English cops. I hate writing reports. I hate doing all this stuff. And now every call that I go to, I'm doing a report. And again, I think and I look at the Lord in so many different ways. When I look at that, I'm like, you have a funny way of going about things. Let me just tell you, because I mean, I failed English class in college 3 times, like straight up 3 different schools, failed it 3 times.
That's
You can ask my
awesome.
mother's. I've gotten a bunch of pops in the back of the head, and I deserve them by her.
Yeah.
But here I am having to write detailed reports of every little thing that happened, and I'm like, yeah, it's just the Lord works in funny ways sometimes, and it's hilarious.
Now, how do you think, like, I'm sure there's a lot of traumatic stuff you deal with, and like I said, I can't imagine how do people that there? Is it just like because like you said when you were first telling your story, how you would just like stuff your feelings? Is that what it is, or do they talk to people about it? Like, what is it like there?
So it's like I said, it's for us, it's been kind of put into realization these last since honestly April. For all the listeners who don't know or don't live in Charlotte, and we had an unfortunate day, April 29th. We had one of our CMPD guys as well as 3 other officers get ambushed and killed. And then we had actually another guy in July actually take his own life. And I don't know any of the backstory of the reason for him. I knew him. He was a great guy. He was the happiest guy in the world. He's always smiling, talking. But everyone handles it different. I know there's some of my people that they go and they seek therapy, they seek counseling, they go and talk to people. I have people that I talk to. I am very open about talking about it. I know there's some people like, well, once I'm like, yes, like when I get home and take my uniform off, I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
But if we're sitting somewhere like grabbing dinner or at a house, or someone's just like, hey man, how's work going? Like, have you done anything? Like, I'm open about it, because I think what people don't realize is, again, like, I experienced what it's like to put things away and put them in a box and lock the closet and not even look at it.
Yeah.
And it's impossible. Like, and luckily for us that, like I said, I'm getting to know the guys at Conquer right now, but like the guys at CMPD, so I still talk to them. They're still some of my best friends. Like, you have to talk about it. You have to go and seek counsel if you want. Like, I'm thankful that right now I don't have to. Like, I tell people all the time they shouldn't. I've sought counsel way back when, but I have people right now who are my counselors, and things are good. But it's one of those things where 100%, like, it's hard. It's not just that incident. I mean, I have the piece of paper they give you at the funeral sitting up there as a reminder every single day. Like, hey,
wow.
And I, like I said, I wear these every single day that has their names on it and then everything. And it's just kind of those memory bands. But it's one of those things where if you don't talk about it, and I'm also very thankful that the community backed us. And I'm not a political guy. I don't watch the news. I tend to stay away from all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say there is a bunch of stuff on there it's not true, because the Charlotte community came around us. The amount of people that just walked up and wanted to give us a hug or make, hey, like, are you
That's
okay?
cool.
Like, is everything good? Like, even outside of Charlotte, like, but it's also good for me because I had so many people. I was in training that day that it happened.
Okay.
I saw the support system that you have, is that you can't do this job alone. Like, you can't, like, everyone behind you has to be there for you, because if not, it's not been good. I got 100 text messages. Hey, are you okay? Or were you here? Were you there? Were you there? Like, fortunately for my safety, I was not there, but unfortunately I wish I could have done stuff. It's hard not to when someone who puts the same uniform on as you every day. But like I said, the best way it is for the community as well to reach out to these officers as well, whether it's we have an incident like that or beforehand. Hey, what can we do for you? Hey, there's churches, whether it's churches, ministries, businesses. Hey, like, we appreciate you. We love you. Just reminding, because it gets cliche. Oh, like, thank you for your service. But like, I love it because it shows another person that is there for support. Because you see stuff every day. It is what it is. I can sit here all day and tell you about the stuff.
I
that
can
I've
imagine.
seen.
Yeah.
You've seen everything from the highs to the highs and lows to the lows, but just talking with people and having that support system in the community, but having that support system with your friends and family, and having your guys there for you, like I said, guys or girls, because there's women out there too. So
I think that's cool that there's guys there that are, that are checking in on you, and then you have guys that you can check on, and like that's a really cool system. I heard a podcast, and it was a psychology podcast, and it said emotions never lie, and emotions never lie still. And so, like, all that up inside is something's going to happen. Like it's going to snap. And so just because something doesn't make the news doesn't mean that y'all didn't face a traumatic event. And so, I mean, so like saying check in on y'all constantly, that's really encouraging that, that the guys you work with are doing that. So going back to the guy you said that unfortunately took his own life, you said how he was happy and smiling all the time. I mean, just because someone seemed like they have it all together, they're probably dealing with a ton of stuff, and so it's really encouraging that your guys are willing to be the macho sense of it and like actually be there for one another, because you have to be in that field.
I mean, it's a math. I mean, trust me, there's women out there who do a great job, and I'm not saying this to take away from that.
No,
but
yeah.
It's a very male, masculine driven profession, and you can't sit here and say like, I mean, there's times for it. There's times to be the big bad macho man, but like there's times where you need there's times I've come home and sat on my couch and cried.
Yeah.
There's times I've come home and smiled my butt off because I was able to help someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things, but it's a humble job because it's it's just like I'm the same as y'all. I'm a human being.
Okay.
And that's what a lot of people think is like trust me, I love being a police officer, but gosh, that uniform sometimes gets uncomfortable. I want to take that thing off. And people don't realize that I take that off and go on walks with my dog, go to church, go hang out with people. Like, I'm not just a police officer 24/7. That's all I do.
Yeah.
I'm a human being just as much. I bleed red just like you do.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that if there's anything is like, like I'm not perfect. I'm the furthest from it. I've messed up calls. I've messed up things.
Mm-hmm.
But any way I can fix it and go about it, I'm a human being. That's my job. And I'm going to try to. So.
Yeah. And I think, there's few professions out there that are probably as much of a emotional roller coaster as what you could experience in one day. Like you could have, a horrendous crime happen and you have to deal with a mourning family that just lost somebody. But then on the flip side of that, you may later on in the day be able to help someone out who's in a really dire situation. And that's like a high, like you feel great after doing that, but then you just had to deal with this super emotionally heavy, sad, other part.
You gotta leave it in the scene.
That's such a swing from one side of the pendulum to the other. So I'm sure that is tough to deal with.
Oh, that's one of the hardest things is like going and getting an emotional call like that. The worst one that I've ever had was an infant pass away. I did CPR and then passed away, and but guess what? There's other calls to take. I have to leave that heartache and heartbreak and cry my eyes out real quick. But guess what? I have to go and this job doesn't stop. It's a 24/7. There's officers right now working. There's officers always working. There's calls always to be took, and it's you deal with it, and then you go to the next one. You have to leave all that emotion and anger. I mean, there's multiple times I've left calls angry, and I've been told to go back in the car because we say Sergeant Coffee needs to see you because it gets you away from the call, lets you calm down.
Gotcha.
There's been multiple times I've done that, and just tensed up. I'm frustrated. People aren't like doing just simple human tasks of being a good person. And guess what? The next call is a sweet grandma who's got a snake in her house, and now I have to go and not take my anger out on that stuff. So it's just like and you never know what you're going to get. I can have 7 breaking in calls. They're all going to be different. I don't know if I'm going to have 5 calls then. I don't know if I'm going to have 35. I don't know if I'm going to arrest someone. I don't know if I'm going to cry my eyes out at the end. Like every day is a different thing. So like staying in check with your mental health and your emotions and all that stuff it's a must because you never know. It's not like, oh, I got to go in tomorrow and I know I'm going to be at the desk doing paperwork all day or I got a meeting. It's like, no, like, I have no clue who's going to call and need my help tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. I can't imagine. Yeah. So like with your squad that you have there, do y'all say the word mental health or is it just like checking on? Like, is it deeper than just like how you doing? Or is it like, hey man, like I'm struggling with depression and anxiety? Or is it like what? Like I don't know if that question makes sense.
No, it's no. I got to what you're saying. It's a check-in. We have multiple group messages. We try to leave all that stuff. I mean, if there's something serious going on where I can tell, I'm pulling you aside and we're gonna have a chat, like to make sure you're good, because like it's a safety thing. It's like,
Yeah.
if you can't handle yourself, like, and it's okay that you can't. It's not. It's 100% okay if you can't.
Right.
But I got to know that you're okay to get officer of theirs back as well as mine. I'm going to have yours, but we got to be all on the same plane of things, because anything can change at a moment's notice. And so unless it's affecting like the job, like it's hey, we hang out, we'll call, we'll text, we'll chat. Like I've had guys already that have had some mental health stuff, and just having conversations, hanging out, crying together, laughing together, talking. It's one of those things where we try to focus at work unless we absolutely have to, and then we'll handle that when we do. Yeah. But you're always, hey, you good? And then you get to know the people on a very, when you're in experiencing some of these stuff and doing some of these calls and working with these guys day in, day out, like you get to know them pretty well very quickly. And you get to know them in a way of, when I say, hey, are you okay? And you say, yeah, man, like I'm fine. Like, no, I can tell from just that response that you're not okay. We're going to have a chat. Yeah. Or like, no, man, like I'm good. Like we're chilling. Like we're good. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go to work. So yeah, when you go through all the highs and the lows with people like that, you get to know them very well and be able to pick out little things that's like, hey, he's struggling with something today.
Yeah. And I think there's multiple professions where you want to have close relationships with people that are in it with you, because they're the only ones who get the unique challenges that your job has. So like, as a pastor, it is so beneficial for me to talk to other pastors who get it. Same thing with you being a teacher, Johnny. Yeah. And, I've seen it, with, even military people, like, because they get it. Like, I don't get what military people go through. I don't get what police officers go through. But I think that creates, just the badge itself and having that in common creates some rapport and trust. I was just, I was at a friend's house from our small group. They had like a housewarming party, and her boyfriend's a cop, and all his cop buddies were there. And you could just see like how close they were and that bond they shared. So yeah, I think it's just that common ground of like, all right, you're someone who actually knows like what I'm dealing with. And I think that's huge, because like Johnny and I have no idea, the kind of stuff.
And I'm not going to sit here to try to say, yeah, man, I get it. I'm not going to say that. And so it's really cool, because like I didn't know if y'all talked about it. I didn't know if y'all just like, buried it and whatever. So it is really encouraging. I know that I'd say that I'm sure that like, even though y'all talk about it, some guys aren't always telling the truth, right? And some guys are probably going to like hide that, whatever. But it seems like y'all create a safe space for the guys that if they wanted to, they could. And man, that is so encouraging. And I just going back to what you said earlier, how y'all are people too. Like, that y'all deal with stuff. It's not like you're these you are heroes, but you're not these superheroes with magical powers that you can. Yeah. But y'all are heroes, but you're not like this. You're not like an Avenger who's from outer space or something, and you don't. And
that's what I mean. It's just like, well, I think what people don't realize is like, if I'm struggling with something like a relationship, or I'm struggling with a family matter or something like that, guess what? It's hard not to leave that at the door sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's relationships or family or anything, bills, just being a human being at some point. Like it's, for some people, like who work like some of these jobs where they can be at a computer, or they're traveling and do all these things. Like I spend a lot of time in my car. I spend a lot of time just in my thoughts, like going between calls, doing all this stuff. And it's like but I have to go to call. So it's like, I can't, if I'm struggling with something, sometimes it's hard for me to leave this here in my apartment and leave it at the door. But people don't realize is, just because I'm a cop, I have my own issues too. Like, they may not be where I'm calling the cops for them or the ambulance or firemen, but I got the same struggles too. And I gotta push those aside so I can help others. And like I said, I love it. I love what I do. I love that I get to go help people. I love that when someone needs something, I'm the first one there, and what can I do to help? But it's one of those things where, dude, there's sometimes where I've looked at my sergeant and been like, hey, I'm going to take all the basic reports that And if someone needs backup, I'll go, but I can't. Today's just not the day for me. And they understand that. And like, luckily for my area and my division in Charlotte, they understood that.
Yeah.
And like, and I told the guys, hey, I will knock out 10 reports if I have to, which is a lot of work. But for that, I would not put anyone at risk. I can be in my thoughts. I can focus and get myself under control for the days that, because I mean, when you're chasing after someone, like my last call was chasing after someone with a stolen gun and foot chase, and then having them at gunpoint and giving them commands and all these things. It's like, if you're not in the right minds, that stuff can go anyway at that point. So,
what I think you shared with me when we met, was it your sergeant that was taking, was it counseling classes, or it was like psychology, psych classes? Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Like, for him to say, for the sake of my department, my squad, I'm going to do this so I can be a resource to them. I mean, that's just, I'm sure there's more of that needed, probably.
100%. It's needed all the time. And like I said, and as soon as I left, the last conversation I had with them, hey, you have my number. I don't care what time of day it is. If you're on I worked nights when I was at Charlotte. I don't know what I'll be when I'm at Concord. I know I'm training on nights, but so I don't care what time of day it is. You need me, something happens, you need me to sit there and talk with you need me to be by your side, like, I'm there. And that's just huge. Someone who's your superior, who you go to and has earned those stripes on his sleeve, like, to be like, hey, like, no matter, even if you're here or not, or if it's life or work or whatever, like, I got you. And to be in that selfless and that hardworking ethic, to be like, hey, I'm going to go to school and do what I can to help with this mental health side of things, because it's a real.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how do you, besides talking to people, how do you deal with your mental health? Is it working out? Is it reading the Bible? Like, is it listen to our podcast? Like, what is it?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I've listened to the podcast on the streets all the time. Like,
awesome. Appreciate that.
The city of Charlotte has some of these gas stations where I sit and wait with my window down and heard the For My Dawgs podcast. Man, it's just like I said, it's the working out. Like, I was a sports guy, so I'm playing golf, working out. I'm a big fan, man. Like, I'm actually headed to go grab my dog here in a little bit for my family and have dinner with them and spend some time with them. I'm still, actually last night played with the Charlotte Mecklenburg's baseball team up in Kannapolis and got to relive my glory days and then do that. So just doing that, and like I said, just spending time with my friends and enjoying it, like, so, like, as well as, like I said, I couldn't do this job. I couldn't be where I'm at if I'm not, especially if I'm not getting into the word and not getting into my quiet time. And I got a little pocket Bible with me, my duty bag that I'll pull out and read if I got nothing going on. But yeah, like I said, just anything to stay busy. But also, like, man, sometimes, like, especially working night shift, like, sometimes I just enjoy being a couch potato, and it's great. Especially with college football 25. I just actually won the national championship earlier today with Georgia, by the way.
Heck yeah, there you go.
Boo.
But just like I said, just doing, like, absolutely just trying to stay busy. But honestly, when you're as busy as me with my job, doing some mindless things and getting away and sitting on the couch watching a movie with my dog, or going over and hanging out with the family, or just going and grabbing dinner with a friend, or literally just sitting here doing nothing, like, it's just whatever I can to stay busy. But yeah, we're like I said, just in the gym, just one, because it's part of the job. Like, I got to be fit enough to handle my own out in the street, because someone out there is doing stuff. But it's also like going in there, and if I have some frustration, going there and throwing some heavy weight around and getting that out, and or doing the basic long walks on the beach kind of thing, and all that stuff, taking a walk around the apartment.
Yeah.
I am a beach guy.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'll ride there with you, buddy. So, but yeah, just anything that keep my mind going, just because, like I said, it subdues the thoughts, whether it's making phone calls to friends, or, like I said, just doing mindless little things here and there, just to enjoy life and enjoy
that's good too.
So,
I mean, working out is good, but you need to recharge by resting too. Resting is important as well. So that's not a bad thing.
No.
College football 25 is a major key for men's mental health.
Oh, it's huge.
Not when the
Let me just tell
stadium
you.
is when the stadium thing on field goal is.
yeah,
That's
stadium
not good for
ball,
your
yeah,
mental
no.
health.
And not if you throw like 3 interceptions in one game, and
Yeah.
if you're having a bad game, then it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well, he was
that's
playing
the
with
thing
Georgia,
too.
so he was fine.
I just transferred to Virginia
okay.
Tech, so it's okay. But no, man, it's and like I said, even with the golf side of things, like I'm not Scotty Scheffler out here winning PGA Tour championships left and right, but just being able to get outside and that's what I think the biggest thing for me is like just don't get me wrong, I love being in my house, I love sitting on the couch, laying in bed, taking a nap, doing whatever, but like just simply going and sitting on a porch, or I have some chairs out front, just sitting and getting some fresh air and stuff like that. So it's just little mindless things. So
Yeah. What would you want like us and the audience to know just when it comes to police officers, conversation around mental health? Like what's something you wish more people knew about it?
I'll tell you the biggest thing, dude, is just that, again, like we're people. I think that's the biggest misconception that people have. Like when you call us and you need us, like, yes, we're police officers, but I got family and friends I'm going home to. Like I got a dog. I got to make sure it's fed and walked and all that stuff. Like I have my own stuff. I mean, like what people don't understand is the job itself for when it comes to like, and I think about it all the time. And I tell this to everyone is like, I put my uniform on not knowing if I'm coming home. It's not a job like you're at an office or at somewhere where you're like, yeah, you like, there's always a possibility because of how this crazy world is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to the danger. When I hear gunshots, I'm running to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like when someone's going to crash, I'm going there. I'm driving fast, lights and sirens, getting there as quickly as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And like that in itself is like, okay, like, well, I'm getting screamed and cussed at and yelled at. Like, okay, well, you have to think about it in my shoes of like, I'm going to a call where there's a dude with a gun. I don't know what's going to happen. I got to do everything I can to protect myself. I got to do everything I can to make sure I make it home. I got to make sure my buddy to my left makes it home. I got to make sure, like, it's not just I mean, don't get me wrong. They're the basic, and it's for us, it says basic. It's for someone who's at the time is not, but like a basic, someone breaks in their car and steals some stuff out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
For us, who I've done hundreds of those reports, it's a basic thing. I go get information, I type the report, bang. But like that call comes out of, hey, there's someone shot, and I'm going there and finding out what's happening. You're observing a scene, making sure that the gunman's still not there, or like this and this. It's like that takes a toll. Whether you say it does or not, it takes a toll. And I just wish people would just recognize that, like, dude, I have my own issues. I got my own mental health. I have my own story. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to do everything I can in that moment to help you. And I'm going to give every ounce that I got. That's how I was born and raised with, like I said, my grandfather being a Marine and my mom and dad being the hardest worker in the room always. And then, like I said, my brother followed the same footsteps, being as hard a worker as he is and making it to where he is. But it's just like, I'm going to work for you and I'm going to do everything I can for you. But you got to realize that I'm a person too, and I'm going to need some help, and I'm going to need that we're not all perfect. Like, again, there's bad apples in every bunch. Some of these situations, I am not standing behind some of these officers that do these terrible things.
Right.
But there's a reason for why we do everything. There's reasons why I go to training. There's reasons why they give these days to go and learn and grow and be the best person possible. And so if there's anything that the listeners can hear, is just knowing that, like, dude, I'm one of the guys, like, I'm 25, almost turning 26. Like, dude, I'm still technically, like, in the world's terms, a kid.
Yeah.
And like, I'm running around arresting people and saving people and helping and doing all this stuff. Like, it takes a toll. And like, if people doesn't think it does, like, if you see an officer, don't just say, hey, thanks for your service. Like, hey man, how's it going? Mm-hmm. Like, how are you doing? You everything okay? Mm-hmm. Like, check up on that guy. And again, some guys may not, and some officers may not, and that's okay, because they may be going through somewhere they can't share at the time, or they just don't feel right about it.
Right.
But there's bound to be that one that does. Someone asks me how I'm doing, I'm going to sit there and tell you the truth, because I'm doing it you as well as me a disservice by sitting there and not saying what's on my mind.
And that's
and
awesome.
But just you don't be just, and like I said, I appreciate it when people like go out of their way. Hey, thanks for what you did. Man, absolutely, man. I have no problem. But like, check up on those guys.
Yeah.
Especially like some of these officers that are in these crazy situations, and you hear some of the stuff, and like, oh yeah, I was there for that. Like, oh man, like how are you really doing? Even if you know them or not, like, hey, I'm praying for you. I'm thinking about you. Anything I can do to help you, like, extend that arm, because some may take it, some may not. Just as every person in this world, especially y'all know as teacher and as well as a pastor know that like some people aren't just gonna be out for right now. But who's to say that? I mean, I worked off duty at a church while I was at CMPD, and like I got to know people. People checked up on me, like doing those things of like, yeah, you may not be a believer, you may not, you don't have, it doesn't have to lead with like, hey man, like it does, cool, like I'm all for it, but like, hey, I've seen you've been working here a few times, like I've seen you around the restaurant a few times. You come get coffee every morning, like, what's your name?
Right.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Like, would love to sit down if
Make
you
them
have
a person. Yeah.
make them a person. Like, dude, like I'm just the same as you. I mean, like we've hung out, both of y'all, like it with a badge and without. But
Right.
guess what?
Yeah.
I don't wear that 24/7. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a good old country boy that enjoys life and loves to go hunting, fishing, and loving every day. Like,
Yep. You were at my wedding and you became known as the cowboy.
Oh yeah, you had the
'cause you wore a
cowboy hat on.
hat, and you
That's
were
all-
just sweating all over, dancing everywhere.
I enjoy a
mean,
good time.
it was great. Yeah.
I'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is like we're not just all cop law enforcement stuff 24/7. Like if someone asks me, sure, but like if you can, like yeah, I mean some officers are gonna be willing to talk about, but just making us as human as possible. Humanize the badge, dude. Like we have our struggles, we have our same problems just as everyone else does.
That's really cool,
Yeah.
and I supported, cops, but I don't think I've like tied the two together, like, yeah, you know what, they're not, like, for instance, I remember in school, I saw one of my teachers at a restaurant, and I was like, what is she doing here? Don't they live at school? Like, it's the same thing for y'all, like,
Wait, John, you don't live at school?
certainly I don't, yeah, but the same thing for y'all is like, I think that's the best message you could give, because it just changed my mind personally, and I'm already supporting the cops, and there's like, y'all are people too. I'll have your own lives. You struggle with mental health as well, and man, you know what? If I ever like see a cop, I'm gonna ask them how they're doing, and I can mean that.
Yep.
So you've taught me stuff today, so thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate
Yeah.
that, man.
Yeah, and just one last question, just to kind of bring it full circle and put a bow on it. But in your story at the beginning, it seemed like a lot of your mental health struggles kind of rose out of this like almost like lack of hope and lack of clarity on what your purpose was and trying to find meaning in life. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that was just kind of
No, you good,
what
man.
popped out of your story to me. So like today, as you're thinking about things, what is something that gives you hope, that gives you purpose in life, whether it's in your job or just personally?
I mean, and the biggest thing is Jesus. I mean, that's the end all for me, man. Like, I can't do what I do to this day. I can't go. Like, I ask people and they'll shake it off because they don't want to have a Jesus talk, and I understand that. But like, I ask my coworkers, like, dude, how do you go about this every day, not knowing? Like, calms me knowing, like, if I go in there and it's my time to go, it's my time to go. The Lord has already set that time for when He's calling me home, so like, it makes my job a lot easier. But like I said, the purpose of anything is the Lord, and it's leaning on Him and through anything. I mean, He was the one that kept me here to this day, going back to that moment, looking in my bedroom and in that mirror. Like, He's the reason I'm still here. But more so for anyone that's listening, like on a personal level, is just like, dude, like just keep going. Like, you may not see the light at the end of the tunnel. You may not even know that you're halfway into a tunnel. Like, just keep going, because at the end of the day, like, the Lord has a plan for you. I did not see that plan, and I did not even think that it was going to have one to become one. But it took time, it took resilience, it took determination, it took not giving up, not quitting. It took the support of your friends and family, the community. It's you can do whatever you put your mind to. I stuck to school. I passed the police academy. And I thank the Lord every day, because if I failed that, I have no clue what I'd be doing. But he like I said, he had that plan for me. And it's just like, I tell people all the time, and parents that listen to this probably are not going to agree with me. If you're not meant for school, don't go to school.
No, I agree.
If you want to go and try something, go and try it. Like, dude, you're going to fail. I'm the first person to look at you and tell you I have failed 100 times. And 100 times over and over and over. I had a conversation with my mama last night about it, and she goes, you have, but guess what? I've smacked you on your head a few times, but you kept going. And you're going to fail, but go and try. Like, I know there were some people that were like, man, what's the flavor of the month? This, like, flavor of the week, changing jobs. I'm like, I don't know. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But there's many people that I talk to that are, well, they went and got their college and like, oh, I'm going to have this dream job out of here, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, they're struggling. They're not liking where they're at. And like, the things have flipped, and I'm loving where I'm at. I love my job. I love the people that I've met, all the relationships that I met along the way. And it's just like, just keep going, try new things, go and experience. You guys want to be a cop, go do a ride along. You want to go be a firefighter, go sit in with them one day. You want to go be a teacher, talk to teachers. You want to go and travel the world and go do something, just do it. Figure out a way. Because at the end of the day, like, don't give up on yourself, because there's people out there that are going to count on you. Not just like with me being a police officer, like whether you, like I said, like, I know y'all's relationship is gone, and I've been able to see a little bit of it just like through like being friends with Haley and Claire. But like Tucker, I know you're not going to give up, because I know, you know, that Johnny needs you just as much as you need him. And it's the same way for you. And like, I have my guy right now, his name's Eric Lansinger. Dude, like, he's the one who moved over with me, and like, he's my rock. He's my guy right now. And I'm working my butt off, because I know that he needs you just as much. My brother, I'm a role model to him. He's just as much of a role model to me. My parents, everybody in a sense, like, dude, just keep going, just keep fighting, experience these things. There's going to be the light at the end of the tunnel. The Lord has such a beautiful and exciting plan for you. Your time may not just be right now.
Yeah.
It may not be in this moment, and you have to learn and grow, mature, and just be able to have those tools in that tool bag for when that moment does come. Because I'm going to tell you right now, 2020, I was not ready to be a cop.
Yeah.
2021, 2022, 2022 is when I started the academy. I was not ready until that October of 2022. Here we are, almost 2 or 3 years later, and I see where the Lord has me for. So, but just keep going, be committed, don't give up. And
your story is so cool, because one, I like how you said that other people would like depend on you. So you're not even making it about yourself. You're talking about like, one reason to keep going is for other people. So I really appreciate you saying that. And then secondly, I like how, because everyone thinks that their purpose is going to be this smooth plan, and yours wasn't, you know. And like, I think your story, without even saying anything, just saying your story will encourage people to be like, you know what, I may not know what my purpose is. That doesn't mean that I haven't found it yet and that I won't find it. And so it's really cool and encouraging those, because I've never heard your story before.
No.
So to hear it, and like, man, I love what I do. It's so cool, because it wasn't this like smooth, short trip, you know.
No.
So that's so encouraging for our listeners, you know, to hear as well.
Yeah. And you know, just what you're just saying, like, if you're listening, keep running the race, because someone out there needs you to run your race.
Yeah, I love that.
Like, I love that you highlighted that, because a lot of times I think when we're in the middle of a challenge, we get so inward focused, and we're just focusing on how bad it is for us and like the circumstances, and we can't like move past that to see the bigger picture.
My favorite, and I'll close this real quick. I love this point. Is my favorite story in Scripture is the armor of God, because you have everything from your helmet to your sword, your shield, your breastplate, everything on your legs. You have nothing on your back, because we're not supposed to fight this battle alone. Whether the listeners are believers or not, whatever you're doing in life is meant to be fought back to back, whether it's with someone or with a group of people. And find your people, find your dogs. You probably find them listening to this podcast. So if you are a listener, you need to make sure you continue listening, because you'll find your dogs through that.
Yes, sir.
But
that's right.
But yeah, just this fight's not meant to be alone. And I think, like I said, this podcast highlights that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, Taylor, man, thank you again for your time and just your vulnerability and your honesty.
And thank you for your service, man. Like,
yeah,
say that enough. Thank you.
Yeah. And man, Lord's doing great things in your life, and just so proud of what you're doing, and the fact that you're living out your purpose, and the fact that you just want to encourage others on their journey as well. So yeah, just can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. For all of you listeners out there, be like Taylor, go be a dog today.
And go be there for your dogs.